Okay, so we are recording the webinar. Thank you all for joining us today. As I said, Bill will give us an update on the Extension Master Gardener National Committee social media page in just a moment. But first we have a few announcements, so we'll go through the agenda. Our announcements will be about 5 minutes, then we'll have the discussion with Bill, and then we'll also have a wrap up. And again, thank you all for bearing with me as I let folks into the waiting room. All right, so a few announcements. We have the Extension Master Gardener Coordinators Conference coming up very soon. This is going to be a virtual conference due to COVID. They've been doing a great job at making some changes and updating it for virtual presentations. So right now the registration link is live and it is $40 to register. $40 is a really great value for all of the information that they have planned for us. So some of the tracks are going to be an Extension Master Gardener Coordinator Toolkit. We'll have an evaluation and impact section, how to use data and social media, topics on volunteer retention, sharing of successful programs and lightning rounds, and also diversity, equity, and inclusion lightning rounds. So we really encourage everyone to sign up and register for the virtual conference. It becomes $50 after August 1st, and the dates are September 14th through the 17th, and this year it is hosted by the University of Tennessee Extension. So a great lineup. The schedule is posted as well. So feel free to go to that link, and then we will also email the link out after the webinar so you all have access to that. Two other conferences to save the date for. We have the National Extension Conference on Volunteerism. That will be April of next year, and you can go ahead and get on the Facebook page, and they also have a listserv. And so if you sign up for those, what you'll do is be one of the first to hear about updates, call for proposals, and how to submit abstracts and get involved and register. So go ahead and check out the Facebook page for the National Extension Conference on Volunteerism, and then that way you'll be aware of any updates coming toward us over the next few months, and then know when you can submit to present for that. The International Master Gardener Conference will be September 13th through 17th in Virginia. There's a website there to learn more. And again, they'll be sending out more information and call for proposals, so you can go to that website to learn more. Are there any other announcements? If so, you can go ahead and type your announcement into the chat box. Okay, and seeing none, we'll go ahead and a few more announcements. We have the next discussion will be August 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern. This will be an excellent presentation by Dr. Barbara Ingham, and Dr. Barbara Ingham is a professor of food science at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She's a food safety specialist, and so a few of us on the Extension Master Gardener National Committee thought that this would be a really good time to talk about food safety in regard to our volunteer programs, especially with regard to COVID-19, and also just general food safety practices with volunteers. So potluck meetings, tastings, cooking demonstrations. Dr. Ingham is going to touch on those and help us to come up with some best practices that we can use, especially if we reopen, and then moving forward with different programs that we do with our volunteers and the public. So go ahead and mark that on your calendar, and we'll send out a reminder about that and also post it on the calendar. A couple other announcements. Some of us are dealing with some Facebook spoofing in our counties and states. So if you are aware of this, or just kind of be aware that this is something else in addition to Zoom bombing that we're having to be aware of, where different folks are mirroring extension Facebook pages and events and using logos. So we've seen this in Florida and Washington and Texas, and some of our colleagues and peers that are on this call have sent out information to the group to let us all be aware of that. Some of my colleagues in a nearby county, what they have done is they're reporting these events to Facebook And each time there's an event that's spoofed, they report it to Facebook separately. They also put a comment on the real event and on the extension Facebook page, letting people know that there's a duplicate event, but to go to the extension page for correct and updated information. So be aware of that, and note that if you do find something like that, you can reach out to Facebook and report it and ask that it be removed. Okay, so any other announcements? Okay, here are none. I do want to point you on the direction of the Extension Master Gardener Coordinator page. This page has a lot of resources. Many of you are already familiar with this, but it's a good reminder that this site is here for us to utilize. There's ways to get involved with the National Committee, resources on a variety of topics from diversity, equity, and inclusion to volunteer retention to evaluation in your volunteer programs. So you could learn more about how to become a reviewer. If you have created a resource that is helpful to volunteer coordinators, you can request that it be considered as a resource for this site, where it goes to a team of reviewers and they could potentially approve posting your resources for others to use. So this is a great site. If you're not familiar with it, the link is there, but for those of us who are familiar with it too, it's just a good reminder to look around. There's always new information being posted, and so don't forget that this is a good site for us to use as coordinators. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a moment to please type your name or type what state you're from in the chat box. All right, so we have folks from all over the country again. We've got North Carolina, New York, and New Jersey, Florida, Illinois, Georgia, Ohio, even Alaska. Very good. Durham, North Carolina, that's where my best friend lives. Nebraska, New York, Oklahoma. Fantastic. Well, we're really happy that all of you are here. I know some of you, this might be your first time signing on to our monthly extension Master Gardener Coordinator discussions, so we're really happy to have you. Again, we do these typically every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and this month we had to schedule it a week afterwards, but we'll resume our normal schedule next month. And so thank you all for being here. I'm Nicole Pinson. I'm with the University of Florida. I'm a horticulture agent and Master Gardener Coordinator, and I serve as an at-large member of the National Committee and help with securing speakers for our monthly discussions and working on these presentations. So thank you all for being here. Today we're going to talk about the Extension Master Gardener Coordinator social media Facebook page for the National Committee. And Bill Lester is our presenter. So Bill, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us, how you came onto this role, and then you may go ahead and start with your presentation.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Like Nicole said, my name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida IFAS Extension in Hernando County, Florida. That's in West Central Florida, just north of the greater Tampa Bay area. And I'm the horticulture agent and master gardener coordinator. And I'm currently the current manager of the National Extension Master Gardener Facebook page. I was asked about a year and a half or so ago to start contributing to the page, and my time is still Monday morning, so I always have to get my post. I have to remember to get my post up on Monday morning. And I was initially asked to write IPM posts, and things went along, and eventually the person, and I think she's even on here this afternoon, Susan DeBleek, who was running the page, asked if I could step in and take over running the day-to-day operations, and I agreed to. And I'm very happy to say that I'm very fortunate that everybody I work with is so professional and hardworking that it's very easy to run. We have very little drama, not a whole lot of problems. I'm kind of glancing at my poll question here. I see an awful lot of no's, but I see quite a few yeses. So we're going to kind of touch on that, touch on Facebook Live and a few other things. So Nicole, if you want to go ahead and switch the slide. Okay, like I said, I'm the current manager of the Extension Master Gardener Facebook page. Hopefully, many of you follow the page and you've liked it. This is something that I'm not even really sure exactly how long it's been in existence, but if you want to go ahead and switch to the next slide. We currently have about 86,000 followers on the page. So it's by far the largest page that I've been involved with or helped to manage. We have a number of different contributors right now, 8 contributors that are from Florida. It's myself and several other people from the state of Florida, Arizona, Iowa, Oklahoma, and Pennsylvania. It's anybody from state master gardener coordinators to county agents like myself. We do have 2 master gardener volunteers that contribute to the page also. And the stated goals of this Facebook page is to improve gardening practices in areas such as sustainable landscaping and food gardening, and showcasing the impact of master gardener volunteers. So that's very important because at the very end, I'm going to put out a little request from all of you, what you can send me to kind of help make my job a little easier and have more materials to post on the Facebook page. So if you want to go ahead and click to the next slide. So how do we do that? How we manage to get that many followers and that many likes? The page, we post every single day. And this is something that was debated not that long ago about how many times a day should we post to, number one, keep our followers engaged. Number 2, make Facebook happy so they'll send our posts out to even more people so that we will get even more likes. And there's been a certain amount of research done on this, but as a general rule, you really need to post every single day. I know some people might start to think, well, if we post twice a day or 5 times a day, we'll get even that much more traction. Our posts will go to that many more people. What happens is if you start to post 5 times a day, your posts are going to go to your followers and you're going to start really filling up their inbox. And there's really not a whole lot to be gained, because part of what you're doing with Facebook is you're trying to figure out what makes Facebook happy. You're going to try to do those things so that they send your posts to the maximum number of people. So we determined that just posting anywhere between 1 and 2 times a day is fine. So we post at least once a day. We try to, whenever we can, find Master Gardener volunteer success stories to post. We share a lot of other posts. I know that I have shared a lot of posts from anything from Entomological Society of America, sharing some of their blog posts, USDA posts, the Southern Region IPM page, we've shared a lot of theirs. Anything that's interesting and appropriate and fits in and might be, interesting to master gardeners, especially gardening based, non-controversial. We always try our best to stay away from controversial type posts. Sometimes that's a little unavoidable. Sometimes you'll make a post and you think that it's not controversial and it turns out that you were not correct. So you kind of learn as you go with that. We do try to post different videos because Facebook really likes when you post or share videos, and a lot of our followers find that very interesting also. And then something that we've just begun doing is making Facebook Live posts. So like I said, I see an awful lot of no's here. I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with Facebook Live, but that is where instead of making a written post, you make a video post basically. And I do most of mine with just my phone here, and I have somebody else log into Facebook, and you click go live and they point their phone at me and I start talking and it goes live on Facebook. Facebook really likes this. They will send Facebook Live posts out to a huge number of people. Followers really like it, as long as you have something interesting to talk about. Once again, they have actually done research on this, and they found the ideal length for a Facebook Live post or episode is about 10 minutes long. Some people will make the mistake of they'll go live on Facebook, go on there for like 20 seconds and go off. that doesn't give people the chance to tune in and click the buttons and go to your page and start actually watching you. And if you go for much longer than 10 minutes, people start to get bored, and all depending on exactly what you're doing or showing them or talking about, they'll start to drop off. So Facebook Live, we're going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later, but that's something that we're starting to do on the national page. And what we're going to be doing for starters is just doing a little self-interview with each one of the contributors to try to put a face with the name that's making these Facebook posts that hopefully people are following. So if you want to go to the next slide. So Nicole, I think that's the next slide. Nicole asked me to talk a little bit about Facebook in general, because I'm not sure how I manage this, but I found myself to being an admin on at least 4 pages and running 4 different groups. So I've obviously been involved with Facebook for quite some time. When I started with Extension about 6.5 years ago, I took over our office's Facebook page, at which point we had, I think, 350 followers. We're just about to hit 6,000. We'll probably hit that by the end of this week. So I've been involved with Facebook and social media in general for a number of years. So when all of a sudden COVID-19 hit and all of our worlds and working lives changed, becoming more involved in social media and interacting with people that way wasn't a huge shock for me. We were already doing it. So it was really a pretty smooth transition to focus on it a little bit more. Because for a number of years, we have been heading in a virtual direction. I know that many of us are now having to teach on Zoom or whatever platform you happen to be using. We're making use of social media a lot more, but we really have been heading in a virtual direction for a number of years. And I think to a large extent, COVID-19 just gave us that extra unexpected kick in that direction. And I think a lot of people might still think that if they, oh, okay, great, we're going to put up a Facebook page and we'll make a post or 2, and then we're going to have all these followers and everybody's going to tune in and follow us and interact. You know, if we build it, they will automatically come. It doesn't work quite like that. Unfortunately, any kind of social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, even something newer like TikTok or something like that, like anything else good in life, it takes a certain amount of work. It takes work, diligence. You have to have a plan. You have to have rules in place. Otherwise, you might end up having issues with the type of posts that people are putting up, the type of pictures they're using. So you really have to have a plan and work at it. But if you do, bit by bit, it will take off and you will do really, really well with it. If you want to go ahead and switch to the next slide. I guess
Bill,
Nicole's still letting people in.
yes, and I just want to address a couple of comments and questions in the chat box.
Okay,
So
sure. If
Susan
anybody
does-
has any questions, you can ask them at the end, or if you put them in the chat box, I'll scroll down and hit them all.
Yes, so I noticed
Okay.
that Susan DeBleek says that she tries to schedule posts about 5 days a week for the Iowa Master Gardener page, which coincides with what your suggestion is, to post about 1 time per day. And then Donna, she wants to know, how much time do you spend, Bill, prepping and posting on Facebook?
It's really not a huge amount of time. It has to be consistent time, though. And that gets really difficult to find the consistent time either every day, or you realize that you can make Facebook posts in advance and schedule them to post on whatever day and time you want them to, which is what I do a lot. So I'll sit down for an hour or 2 or 3 and just look at the different pages, think about what I need to post to them, what I want to cross post. I make the posts in advance and then go in. Facebook has something called Creator Studio, which I use a lot. I think it's great. You can go, so I can go and post in any of the different pages that I'm an admin on. You could post, and then I could pick to have it actually post next Tuesday at 10 a.m., which is what I usually do, and get them all done all at once. You do have to set your notifications either on your computer or on your phone. I check them on both, so that if there's responses or questions or problems or anything on any one of the pages, you get a notification. I find myself having to check them quite a bit. I just kind of scroll through it and see if anybody has commented on a post, if there's a problem. You always have to be on the lookout for inappropriate posts and be prepared to deal with them and take care of them. So it really, like I said, it really doesn't take a huge amount of time, just very, very consistent time. If you let it get away from you and you ignore a page for a while, all of a sudden your engagement's going to drop off. People are going to get bored. Your posts, obviously, if you're not making them, don't go to anybody, so you're not going to be very successful that way. Brenda said I post once a day and I spend about a half an hour, 3 days a week. That's about right. You want to think about your post well. You always need to, and there's all kinds of smaller issues about if you're including a photograph with it. Did you take the photograph? Is it a trademarked photograph, something inappropriate you're not supposed to be using? Don't just go on the internet. Don't just Google like you want a picture of a monarch butterfly and take something off of Pinterest. That will be a problem. That's not, you need to make sure that you have permission to use these photos. I always try to take my own photos if there's any way possible, because that way I don't have to worry about that. Esther said in Prince George's, Maryland, you post 7 days a week. You really don't have to post on the weekends. If you do, there's a lot of people on Facebook on the weekends, so it will get seen by a lot of people. That's a good example of when you want to post in advance so that you're not having to work on Saturday and Sunday to write the post and post it live. We have a live component on Saturday from 9 to 10. The live event is Ask a Master Gardener Plant Clinic. Good for you. I just started doing a weekly virtual plant clinic for our county clientele. I do mine every Thursday at 10 a.m. on Zoom, so that's a great idea. And if there are no questions, they talk on a specific topic such as container gardening, benefit of trees. You probably have really good success with that also. That's the kind of thing that if you share on Facebook and you get enough people to know about it, and what I've found is I've gotten a group of really, really regular followers. I have people that will tune in every single week to see what we're going to talk about and what the questions are about, and it's been working out really well. So that's a really good idea. I'd encourage everybody to do. And yes, there are free stock photo sites as well. There's a number of them, but you need to double check that first and be very careful with the pictures that you put up. I work with somebody who shared a photo from, I think, National Geographic, but didn't put the credit in the posts. And one thing led to another, and that it didn't work out well. So double check those photos to make sure that you're safe to be able to use them. Donna said that live component's a great way for volunteers to get hours. Yeah, and the public really likes live events also. I've had really good success with Facebook Live, everything from going on for a few minutes to give people a preview, or like go on Monday morning, give everybody a reminder of what's coming up that week. I'll go on and do a 15-20 minute long Facebook Live and teach people something. It could be something as simple as how to take a cutting from a plant and start it in potting soil. I did one just yesterday on planting an herb garden. I think it was 15 minutes long, and it does really well. There are a lot of people on Facebook, which leads me into the next slide here. Some little things that you need to think about if you're not really that experienced with social media, or you're still thinking about it, you haven't really jumped into it. Some ideas for long-term success. What you're really trying to build is a community, because this is social media. It's supposed to be very social, very interactive. As a general rule, the platforms like Facebook want your posts and what you're doing to be very, very interactive. If you create a Facebook page, you only post once every 3 weeks, your post isn't very interesting, nobody likes it, nobody reads it, Facebook is going to look at your page like, I guess they're kind of boring. I'm not going to send their posts to lots and lots of people. On the other hand, if you start to build a community, every post you make, people like it, they comment. Very important, you need to go on there and comment back and interact with them. Facebook will see that, they'll send it to more and more people comment, and it'll kind of snowball, it'll spiral upwards. Like what's already been mentioned, consistent posting. As a general rule, I try to post to the different pages. I always pick 10 a.m. because I've checked our analytics and seen that our followers are online consistently from about 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. So 10 a.m. is a good consistent time to have my posts pop up. They get, quite a few views. You really want to put a variety of different posts up. I know some people will just get into the rut of the only thing they post is like their workshops, their classes, their activities, the different things coming up. And if your Facebook page just becomes a listing of all the different things that you're doing and kind of advertisements for people to sign up or tune in, or if you're back to doing in-person activities to show up in person, that starts to get a little boring. You want to share posts, but not put too many shared posts on there. You want to, of course, let people know about what you have coming up and what activities you have, but you want to make it something more than that. Facebook really likes if you post original content. So it could be something as simple as writing a couple sentences about a seasonal insect pest, gardening issue, remind people if it's the beginning of dry season to water their lawns. Or in Florida, we're into rainy season, remind people to go out there and turn off their irrigation, check their irrigation. It doesn't have to be long, but it does have to be something that you wrote and it's unique. You might want to look at boosting posts. I've done that for a number of years. So if you have money in your program that you can spend on Facebook ads, that works really well. That's when you write a post and Facebook sends it to a certain number of people, your followers and people that like your page, and you pay Facebook money to send it to even more people. And it can work really, really well. We've done that to promote when we're putting together our new Master Gardener training class, when we have a large event or a large workshop coming up, especially in the past when we had workshops that we would do in face or face-to-face and we would charge for. We want to get a really good turnout, so we would invest the money on boosting posts. It did work really well. You want to use the events section. So every time you have something coming up like a class or a get together, create an event for it. And what happens is Facebook sends these events to people that are just looking for events happening in their area. A huge number of people will look for events on, let's say, the weekend or during the week. I wonder what's happening in town. What kind of fairs and festivals are going on. They're going to see your classes and your events there, and you will get a huge amount of exposure. If we make events for a class about a month and a half in advance, we will get thousands and thousands of views on it because it goes into a separate section on Facebook other than just the posts. So make sure you're using events. And then, like I said, use Facebook Live. For anybody who said no and are, I'm afraid to do Facebook Live. I'm not going to look good. It's not going to be interesting. Just remember, we all look terrible on camera. I look terrible on camera. And yeah, my first Facebook Live was pretty awful. But if you keep doing it and stick with it, it really is one of those things. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, the more comfortable you're going to get. Just big smile, think about what you're going to say, try to be engaging. Keep it to about 10 minutes. Don't ramble, wrap it up, and just keep doing it. And you're going to see some really good rewards from it, basically. So next slide. And just a couple real quick final points on social media in general here. It really is where people are. It's a great way to connect with people. I know that many extension offices have people that have been dealing with extension for many years, or maybe even for many generations. We deal with a lot of family growers who know of extension, but an awful lot of, we have a situation in Florida where we have a large number of people that are moving to the state and they have no idea we're here. And using social media is a great way for us to tell them who we are, what we do, get them involved. And if they get involved the first time and we do a really good job, our job, they're going to keep coming back and they're going to get involved in our different various programs. They're going to get involved in 4-H. They're going to become a master gardener. They're going to go to our classes. Don't forget, there's a lot of other social media, because this really did just focus on Facebook, which is the one I have the most experience working with, and I find to be very effective for the people, the demographics that we're dealing with. But there is also Instagram. Instagram is very effective with younger people. As a general rule, our Facebook page, the vast majority of our regular followers are women who are aged 45 to 65. And chances are, if you look at your Facebook analytics, all of you are going to find pretty close to the same kind of numbers. If you're trying to expose yourself to more younger people, you may want to think about getting involved in Instagram. There are things like TikTok, which I really don't know much about. I know there's talk, I've seen things on the news about possibly banning them because it is a Chinese-run company. If you want to get creative at shooting silly little videos and posting them, TikToks might be a really creative thing to play with a little bit. YouTube, a lot of our classes we will record, and a lot of our Zoom classes, because Zoom does record, we'll record them, turn it into a video, put it on YouTube, and that way you have a link to put on Facebook pages, to put in a newsletter, to use for later. Twitter, I know a lot of people with extension are involved with Twitter. I never really have been, so I really can't say how effective it is or is not for extension. Snapchat, I never could figure out Snapchat other than putting silly noses and ears on your pictures and everything, but it may be a really good way to, establish a relationship with much younger people. Maybe something that you could be creative and experiment with, because that's what I try to do with Facebook. You just experiment with different types of posts, different little programs, and either they work or they don't work. As long as you track it, you're going to figure out what works really well and stick with it. And finally, if you're thinking, well, why do I want to bother with all that? That sounds like an awful lot of work. And hopefully you're not still thinking that it's only kids that are on Facebook, because it really isn't. Kids, as a general rule, are not on Facebook because you don't want to be on the same platform your parents and grandparents are on. Kids are basically all on TikTok and Snapchat now. But some of the benefits that we have seen is dramatically increased awareness in our county and our community about who we are and what we do. Increased attendance. We have far fewer problems filling the room or getting people to tune into our virtual classes and programs now. And amongst our Master Gardener volunteers and the applicants that want to be Master Gardeners and join the next class, we've seen a very large increase in the diversity, mostly age diversity among them. We really do have a lot of younger people who are becoming Master Gardeners, and it's not really overwhelming, but it does add for a much better mixture of talent and abilities out of the entire Master Gardener group, which is a really great thing. So we've seen quite a few benefits. Nicole, I think that's about the last slide I had. If I can scroll up here and look at some of the questions. Oh yeah, before I forget, my big request from all of you is, I mentioned earlier that we try to post Master Gardener success stories. If any of you ever have something that your Master Gardener volunteers have done, and it could be a blog post, it could be a link to maybe a newspaper article, TV coverage, something written with a description and an explanation of what they did, and ideally at least one picture, please either go to the Extension Master Gardener Facebook page and contact us that way, or you can just email me directly, wlester@ufl.edu. We're always looking for materials that we can make a post out of on the page showing some kind of Master Gardener success story. And it gets you national exposure. We have people that follow us from, all the way from Florida to Alaska and everywhere in between. We try to make our posts generic enough where it's going to apply to people no matter where they live. We try to put links from different university information from different universities all over the country. So if any of you have something that your Master Gardeners have done, please feel free to share it with me and we'll go ahead and put it up there. And Julie said she does a similar Ask a Master Gardener with our local libraries, and they're on Zoom and then live stream it to Facebook. I do that also. And I was really amazed that it's not that difficult to do. Gets a little glitchy if you have internet problems that day. It doesn't work out really well. But the library is the host and live streams it to their Facebook page. That's just a fantastic way to get that much more exposure and make it available to more people. Because I know in the past, when we did all in-person events and classes, not everybody is available during the day, during the week. And putting more things on Facebook or doing it through Zoom or doing it virtually where it's recorded, you'll find that a lot more people are going to be able to watch it and learn from it, watching it at their own leisure, whatever day and time they might want to. Susan, how are you? I organized a State Master Gardener page and I don't have many events. I recently was encouraged to add an event for our MG training application deadline. Every class we do, we create an event for, and we work with a couple other pages and we share our events to give it even more exposure. And it is amazing if you put an event up about 6 weeks before the event, by the day of the event, I have seen our events, no lie, get 10,000 views. So it's shown up and 10,000 people have clicked on it and at least glanced on it. And it didn't cost me a dime. So to get that kind of exposure, I can't think of any other way to do that for free, at least. If I had unlimited funds, I could put things in the newspaper, I guess, but we get really good success with that. And Brenda says she always schedules it for between 8 and 9 a.m. It's really good to be consistent with posting every day and trying to keep it around the same time. Susan said, I like to ask for photos, a pet who is your garden buddy, how your plants are doing. Yeah, posts don't always have to be sharing hardcore science or something really educational. Putting in some, and I like to call it fluff, that kind of lighthearted, what's your favorite thing to do in the garden? Share a picture of your favorite pet, what's growing in your garden right now. Those people really like that. And it really is about building a community, and that's a good way to keep people engaged. And it can add really good variety to the types of posts that you're putting up. Amy asked, really good question. What does it cost on average to boost a post? Facebook has a minimum of $1 a day. So if I have an event coming up and let's say it's happening in 30 days, I have to put at least $30 to boost the post, which comes out to be $1 a day, which for us equates to sending it to anywhere from 1,000 to a couple thousand people per day. So I think the larger, it depends on exactly who you're boosting it to. You probably want to look up, Facebook has a lot of really good tutorials and a lot of good information on their website about how to do these kind of things. I rarely spend more than $2 or $3 a day on boosting. I try to boost it for a long period of time at a little bit of money. It kind of puts it out for a slow trickle. And like I said, there have been times where it's worked out really well for us. Definitely worth the money. Jean said, this is what I've seen. Gen Z are on TikTok. I have yet to be on TikTok. I need to sometime just to see what's on there. Instagram and YouTube. Millennials are on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Gen X to boomers are mostly on Facebook. That's about right. So obviously, if you're trying to target different groups, you can kind of experiment and play with the different platforms. I've always wanted to put together something on Instagram to see how well it would work. And for me, it's just a matter of time, finding the time to do it, to learn it. Like everything, it does take a little bit of time. There's a learning curve. You need to read and study and experiment. One day, we're going to have an Instagram page, and I'll figure out how to get people to like us on there too. Nicole said of trying to reach out to younger gardeners and youth, considering reaching out to your 4-H agent for help writing posts and using different social media platforms. That's a good point. I would think a 4-H agent in that age range or that group to help you write the posts or give you some kind of guidance in that way. Jenny says, so do you just record on Zoom and add the video to Facebook, or can you live stream from Zoom? Yes, you can live stream from Zoom to a Facebook page, but you have to be an admin on that Facebook page. And you can just Google it and find both Zoom has tutorials and Facebook has tutorials on that. And it takes a tiny bit of practice, but it's really not very difficult to do. I've done that with a lot of our, we've done that with actual workshops. So the workshop is being broadcast to the people joining us on Zoom. And then it's also being broadcast to our Facebook page. And I had several other Facebook pages share it from that. So we ended up getting really, really good reach and exposure on a couple different workshops. It's tough getting the volunteers to understand social media and how effective it is. I'd love to have a regular live Q&A. It can be difficult to get others to understand. And of course, a lot of people really don't like Facebook and don't like social media. I was never a big Facebook person. If any of you were friends with me on Facebook, you know I almost never post. Maybe a couple times a year, you know, pictures of the dogs and what I had for dinner. But I'm not a big social media guy personally. But I realize that it's really, really important for my job. So that's what I use it for. And that's why I've learned what I've learned is to be able to do what I'm trying to do. There are still people who think Facebook is just for kids, and that's just not true. There's people who think, oh, well, master gardeners aren't on Facebook. Oh, yeah, they are. Do you know why so many, especially women age 45 to 65, are on Facebook? It's because their kids are on Facebook and their kids post pictures of their grandchildren on Facebook. So that's how they get to see them. So there's a lot of misconceptions about social media and who's on it and who isn't on it. Not everybody is on there. So I find, you know, I still write articles for local newspapers. I still do the other ways of promoting what we're doing and how we're going about doing it. But honestly, Facebook is kind of the center stone that everything else revolves around right now. You can link Instagram and Facebook posts right now. You can, and on Facebook Creator Studio, you could set it, if you're posting to Facebook pages and Instagram pages, where it's all set so you could post from both on the same platform right there. So you may want to look up Creator Studio. I see Wendy Wilburn here is asking for more husky pictures, please. Okay, Wendy, I'll be sure to post on my page. It's been a few months, so I guess I'm due to make a post on my Facebook page. We'll put a picture of the huskies up later on. One of them had a adventure today. He had to go to the vet, so I'll post about that. Ruth said her question got lost in the lineup. Sorry. Do most of these tips also apply to a Facebook group? we have a closed group for our Master Gardener volunteers. Yes and no. We have a closed group for our Master Gardener volunteers also. They love it. They post pictures in there, and we only let Master Gardener volunteers join that one. I have a Facebook group that goes with our county's Facebook page. I'm trying to do more teaching materials in there, and I'm eventually going to try to evaluate them and survey them to see what kind of responses I get. Facebook groups are a little bit different. You can't boost anything through a Facebook group, so there is no paid advertising inside of a group. You could do Facebook Live in a Facebook group, and that works really well because it's only the people in the group that can see it. So if it can make for a nice kind of close, intimate, smaller class. But groups work really well. Like I said, I have a couple of them. Susan said, I recommend asking questions in the group to create conversations and share ideas between people. I use Hootsuite to schedule posts for Twitter, but I think Twitter likes more live posts. Like I said, I am not a Twitter expert. I know a lot of people with Florida Extension played with Twitter a little bit and kind of dropped it pretty quickly because they weren't getting a really good response. So I'm not sure what Twitter's place in the whole hierarchy and the whole buffet of social media is. I'm sure it works well for some people. I've just never tried it. I've never found the free time to really experiment with it. And where do I find Creator Studio on Facebook? I think you can just Google Creator Studio and click on it and go into it there, and then it automatically opens your Facebook page, whatever you're an admin for. But on your Facebook page, you should be able to get to Creator Studio on Facebook. You have to be an admin on that Facebook page, or at least a Facebook page. For some reason, I'm an admin on a number of different pages, and everyone looks different. All of them, the links and my choices of what I can go to, it's different on every page. Facebook can be a little bit of a hodgepodge, really, so it's kind of difficult to explain that one right here. Heather says she uses Hootsuite too, and Airtable. I've never heard of Airtable. I'll have to try that. And I've used TweetDeck. There are a lot of different services out there. Yeah, Lynn said Creator Studio does vary by the type of page you have. Like I said, I get to it, depending on what page I'm on, I get to it a different way on each page. So Facebook can still be a little confusing even for somebody that plays with it more than they should, like myself. So Nicole, I don't want to run on for too long here. So whenever you want to cut me off, you just feel free to jump right in here.
Yeah, I have a couple other questions. I'm going to go back to the Facebook link. Is this page for the public? Is it mostly for Master Gardener coordinators? I just wanted you to clarify that, or for Master Gardener volunteers. And then what are ways that we can get involved and help you out?
This page is totally open to the public. It's not a group, it's a page, it's an open page. So you can go to it. Our followers are lots and lots of Master Gardeners, Master Gardener coordinators, a lot of members of the general public. They, obviously with 88,000 followers, they range from, Alaska to Florida and everything in between. We would really like anybody to go and visit the page and definitely like us, so we can try to get up to maybe one day get up to 100,000. I'm not sure if Facebook gives you something when you hit that many people, but it'd be good to find out. If you'd like to get involved with the page, we have a lot of people. I know a lot of other county pages that share our posts, because a lot of our posts will get reshared by a huge number of people. And I've glanced before at who's resharing them, and it is a lot of extension offices. So if anybody on here is an admin or helps to run your office's page, follow us and feel free to share our posts. And then, like I said, if your master gardeners do something noteworthy, especially if it's like a newspaper article, some kind of interview on television, or just something that you've written something about a community garden, feel free to send me the information and we'll try to get it up there on the page and get you some nice national exposure.
Thank you. And I did want to make a comment. I was thinking about Ruth's question about the closed groups versus the open pages. And it did make me think that if anyone is a little nervous about creating a Facebook Live post and you happen to have a closed page with your volunteers, that might be a really good place to practice before you do one live for the public. Because hopefully your Master Gardener volunteers are a little more forgiving, and it might be a better community to kind of get some practice and some confidence doing those Facebook Live posts. So that's one thing that I think I'm going to try to do more. And I also like Susan's idea of creating an event to encourage people to apply for the Master Gardener Volunteer Program. I think if we do that, we may end up getting folks that wouldn't normally apply to the program. So that was an excellent suggestion. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, those are all great ideas. Obviously doing Facebook Live, and when you do Facebook Live, you go ahead and you're gonna put in you go like you're making a post. You go into Facebook Live. You want to put in a title of what you're doing, a description if you want to put in a description. You do the live session. When you're done, you have a choice of either deleting it or saving it to your page at that point. You can't stop anybody who is watching it live from unseeing it, but you don't have to save it to your page. But if you do hit save it to your page, it gets saved as a video and stays on your page. And I've always found that we'll get the far majority of our views later on when people run across it later that day, that evening. And we can get quite a few views for at least a week or two on it. So if you do Facebook Live and it's absolutely terrible, you can delete it. You don't have to keep it on there. But it'll be fine. Don't be afraid of Facebook Live. Okay, we do have another question or two on here. Heather said, how do people use groups versus community? With Facebook, you have a Facebook page, which the Extension Master Gardener Facebook page you see on the screen here, that's for a page. Groups are something different. Facebook created groups, I think, to kind of put together people who have a common interest and get them to discuss even more and get even more engagement than people do with a page. So we have our county page, and I also created a county group. Our county group is just a Hernando County Extension gardening group. I'm a member of a lot of different groups. We have, and chances are wherever you live, you have a lot of groups also that deal with gardening or native plants or a lot of different topics. Groups can be public. If you make a public group, when somebody comes to it, they can all automatically join. You can't approve them to join or not. You can make it a closed group, which somebody asks to join, and you have to click and say, yes, you can join, or no, you can't join. That is a really good idea, and you probably want to look closely at who is joining now, because as Nicole mentioned at the very beginning, the Facebook spoofing and phishing, we've had a problem with that. And I'll see people try to join our group, and they're from a foreign country, and they've been on Facebook for 2 days, which isn't a good sign. And I'll usually not let them join the group because, if you look at their Facebook information, they're probably there for not good reasons. But it does give you a chance to preview people and allow them to join or not. Obviously, anybody who has been on Facebook for a while and looks fairly legit, I let them all join. I mean, we want to, have as many people in there as we can.
That's a great point, Bill. And I want to just let everyone know about a situation that we had in our county. We had a local news outlet that was doing a feature for Facebook Live on our perennial garden. And it was great media coverage, really good interview. But what they did is they did like a teaser on Facebook Live for a few minutes every so often prior to the event. Well, luckily, no one showed up during the Facebook Live session, but someone showed up at the extension office after we had recorded it, and the person was a little bit off and actually could have posed a threat to the Facebook Live session. So everything worked out okay, but I just want to let folks know if you're doing it live, it's great. But if you happen to work with the media or you do something like a teaser, be aware that it's probably letting people know when you intend to go live. So just be careful about that.
Yes, and we've had a problem a few times in recent weeks with doing Zoom classes, because we'll mention and we put posts on Facebook about, be sure to tune into our Zoom class tomorrow or, later on today. And somebody will go on there and comment and make a fictitious event using the same picture that we had. And they'll be asking people to click on their link. And if you click on their link, it starts asking you for your credit card information. Hopefully everybody knows not to be handing out their credit card information, to people you don't know online, but nobody has done it. And we do have warnings that we'll never ask for your credit card information to be able to join any kind of Facebook Live or Zoom class. But there are people out there trying to run scams. So you always have to be careful.
Great point. And then I see Lynn has a few comments. So we'll go ahead and read Lynn's comments and then go ahead and end the webinar. And Bill, can you see those there?
Sure, I can see it. Lynn says, having a question or two for new joiners also helps weed out the bots. We have had people try and sell tickets for our free events that they have extra. Yeah, this is still the internet. If there's any way to figure out how to scam people or steal credit card numbers or do something, somebody's going to figure it out and try it. And unfortunately, you always just have to be aware of that and keep a real close eye on these platforms. I have to keep a close eye on Facebook, make sure nobody posts anything inappropriate. I've never had many problems with that, but you always have to be diligent. And if you do start a group, it's good to ask a couple questions. Most groups that I have joined will ask you some kind of questions. If nothing else, they'll put the rules on there and they say, have you read the rules and do you agree to abide by them? And if you click yes, then they'll let you in as a member. So adding a couple questions does help to filter out bots and things like that. So I think with that, Nicole, it's all yours.
All right, well, I thank everyone for joining us today. Bill, this was a great discussion between you and just the interaction from other people on the webinar. I learned some tips myself and some new things that I plan to implement. Of course, Bill provided his email address and contact information. So if you have more questions about using social media or the Extension Master Gardener social media Facebook page, feel free to reach out to Bill. Also, we have recorded the webinar that will be posted, and I'll send a PDF out with the link to the recording, so you'll have access to that. And don't forget to save the date for our August presentation, which will be the third Wednesday, and we will do that talk on food safety for Master Gardener volunteers. And Bill, I really appreciate you giving us an update. I hope that folks who weren't aware of the Facebook page are now aware of it. It's got great content. You do a great job, you and the team, of posting information. And I really look forward to just kind of monitoring it a little bit more and learning more from the Facebook page, but also brushing up on my Facebook skills and doing a little bit more in my county. So I really appreciate your time today. This was very informative and lots of great tips. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on.
All right, thank you everyone. I will go ahead and stop the recording and I will send out their link momentarily. Again, thanks, and I hope that you all have a great week. And thanks again, Bill. Good job.